In communication with Southern California, KHJ-TV Public Affairs presents Teen Talk. There are approximately 20 million people who have been infected with genital herpes. Herpes can be transmitted non-sexually as well as sexually. Scientists report that women with genital herpes are 5 to 8 times more likely to develop cervical cancer than those who are not infected. There are about 500,000 new cases of herpes each year, making it the most prominent sexually transmitted disease of the past decade.
Herpes virus has already affected some 20 million people. It is active indefinitely, the infections are recurring, and it may well be the most active sexually transmitted disease around today. I'm Joe Feinstein, and today on Teen Talk, we're going to discuss a topic which has received too much sensational hype and not enough sensitivity or understanding, and that is HSV number 2, or genital herpes virus. Welcome, panel. Welcome to Teen Talk. And I might explain to our viewers today that we're featuring 4 teenagers, none of whom has herpes, and 3 adults who are connected intimately in helping people come with herpes virus problems. And let's launch into the topic by asking
Teen
what is
Talk
some of
on
the background
herpes.
about herpes that we should be aware of. Alan?
Well, herpes has been around from Greek civilization. As a matter of fact, the name herpes is a Greek word. What has happened since the explosion of the media and the media hype has made people with herpes feel very isolated, feel very alone, and has made them feel like they are outcasts from society. And what that has done is put them in a double bind, meaning that having this kind of an emotional response to the disease, they then find themselves having more recurrences more frequently and having the recurrences last longer. With a little understanding, herpes virus can be very much controlled, and people with herpes can live a very normal and active life, both sexually and non-sexually.
Good, good. That's a nice intro. And Bill, you're working at the Valley Free Clinic. What do you tell some of the people that come in and complain about herpes virus?
Well, usually they don't know they have herpes until they come into the clinic. We do diagnosis and treatment. And usually the first reaction is shock. They've watched TV, they've heard, the media representation of the infection, and they've heard that it's incurable and that it is potentially life-threatening. And that's somewhat of a distorted image. So what we try and do is to sit them down and explain as factually and non-judgmentally as possible what the infection is and what it does, and what precautions they do have to take as far as their health care in the future.
Ava, you're at the Sherman Oaks Community Hospital. What would you add to what Bill is saying about the people that you see with herpes?
I don't see people at the hospital, but as a health educator with experience in healthcare clinics in the past, basically, again, it's to allay the panic that they have been exposed to, and try to get it back in proportion and perspective that because it is incurable, that doesn't mean it is any more of a problem than the common cold, which is also incurable. And it's just not the end of the world, which is their first reaction.
It's not the end of the world. That's a very important message. I can only tell you how difficult it was to find teenagers with herpes to be willing to come on the show, so that you 4 that are here now represent teenagers who don't have herpes. But I'm wondering, what would you do if you did contract it? Will, what would you do?
First of all, I don't think I would go on the show. I mean, and if I did, I would seek help. That would be the first thing. And I don't know who I would tell. I mean, someone who I know would take it like as what they do. But other than that, I don't think I would publicize it either. And I would just I mean, I wouldn't feel it's the end of the world for me though.
You would not feel it's the end of the world. Would it be the end of the world for you, Mickey?
Well, maybe a couple of weeks ago it would have been, but since we talked in class with Alan here, and he clarified a lot of things on my mind about that. It's really not as big as they make it sound like, and it's, you know, it's really okay. Not that saying that go out and get it, but I'm just saying that it's okay if you have it. You could go out and you could seek help, and you could, you know, live a normal, healthy life without, you know, being clamped down and, you know, that you have herpes.
There are channels to go to. There are places to go to. This is not something that's the end of the world.
No, I don't think
What
so.
would you do if you found out, Sandy, that you discovered that you had herpes?
Yeah, I feel the same way he does. Probably a little while ago I would have been more scared and stuff, but I know that there's people to help, and you're not alone. There are many people that do have herpes and stuff, and I would understand it. I'd be scared because there's something in my body that I can't get rid of, and that would scare me, and I wouldn't want to give it to anybody else because I don't think that's right to pass it on. I would tell the person, you know, that I'm going out with or whatever.
You would tell the person
Yes,
that you're going with?
it'd be a hard thing to tell them, but they'd have to understand or they wouldn't understand.
Gina, what would you do?
Well, like Sandy said, I think it's very important to tell the person, you know, I have herpes or whatever. I think maybe I would be a little scared, but I think that if you seek help and you really understand the disease, you know, the problem, you know, it helps you so much to know what's going on.
One person said the pain of herpes is like scraping your knee and having someone put salt on it. I'm wondering, is that true? And if not, what kinds of treatments are available? And when the pain is bad, how do you handle it? Yeah?
Okay, in the past there was not much they could do for the pain or for symptomatic treatment of herpes. There is a new drug on the market, relatively new, called acyclovir, which is used in the treatment of primary lesions. In other words, when someone first manifests the infection. And this seems to speed up the healing process and decrease in some individuals the pain associated with it. There are other topical anesthetics that are used, not very effectively. The first outbreak of herpes is by far the most uncomfortable. And generally speaking, as outbreaks, if someone does have reoccurrences, as outbreaks continue, they are less and less severe. They're in shorter periods of time. They last, first outbreak may last a week, 10 days, 12 days. The second, third, fourth outbreaks will be shorter and shorter. So it's kind of a self-limiting virus in that it does tend to get better all by itself in those people that have recurrences.
Did you know some of these things that you're hearing right now?
No, I didn't.
It's good. It's good. Alan, can you add some more stuff to that?
Sure. One of the things that people aren't familiar with in discussing herpes is the fact that it really can't be transmitted to another partner or to a partner unless the person who has herpes is in the active stage. In other words, when they're not having an active outbreak, they can't give herpes. And from the point of view of dating, we have found that people who have herpes are very often a safer sexual partner than people without it, because people who have herpes know they have it, they know when they can transmit it, when they can transmit it. It's the person walking around the street who doesn't know, who's not informed, doesn't know when they have an outbreak and when they don't have an outbreak. Some of these outbreaks are such minor occurrences with physical discomfort that they can give herpes away to partners without knowing they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Another major area is the fact that not the genital herpes, but herpes 1, which is we will call cold sores. And all of the people who've been blessed with having cold sores got them from being kissed by a mother or a grandmother or an aunt, someone who didn't know that it could be transmitted that way. Then they have herpes, and then they can transmit it to another person, and so it just keeps rolling along.
So what I hear you saying is ignorance seems to be one of the worst things that happens in the area of herpes.
Right, Joe.
What have you guys learned about herpes? Gina?
Well, I learned that there can still be contact if you have herpes if you don't have an outbreak. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, you have herpes, you can't do that anymore, but I learned that, and I thought that was very important.
Okay, and you're shaking your head too, Ava. What are you thinking about? What can you add to this?
That's very true. I didn't realize that was possibly a commonly held thought. You can definitely continue to have sex when you're not active. And even when you are active, there are other forms of sexual activity that you can possibly engage in if it doesn't endanger you or your partner.
I'm wondering, would you be able, you people who don't have herpes, my teenagers, would you be able to confide a problem like herpes to your parents, let's say? Would this be okay to talk about with your parents and let them know? Sandy?
For me, yes, because me and my mom are very close, and we talk just about anything, and I could just go right up to her and tell her, and she'd help me and comfort me right away. It would be no problem. And my dad, not as much, because we're not as close, but my mom for sure.
What about you, Mickey?
Well, I don't think so with my family because you know, we are from Persia, and over there it's like more old-fashioned way. And the thing is that, again, when my mother and father, they heard about the herpes thing on TV, and they made it so big that they think it's such a bad thing to have. They don't understand that you could get it without having sex. You could get it without actually, you know, engaging in a sexual encounter. So that way I don't think it'd be okay. But then after if I actually do get it, and then, you know, they have to accept it, then when I talk to them about it and give them the facts, then I think they would be able to help me afterwards.
What do you say to the kids that come to see you at the free clinic who, you know, or the adults who come?
First thing, calm down.
Calm down.
Calm down.
They're a bunch of nerves on that.
Generally, somebody's ready to either jump out a window or throw someone out a window, depending on, you know, how they're relating to their outbreak. I try as briefly as possible to explain that the virus they have is similar to other viruses. Chickenpox, smallpox are very similar kinds of viruses.
Those are second cousins, aren't they,
Yes.
to the herpes virus?
Yeah, they're very close. However, herpes generally is not nearly as severe in its ramifications as either of those viruses are. It's also almost identical to the virus that people get in their mouths, cold sores. So frequently I'll start by saying, have you ever had a cold sore? Do you know people that have cold sores? And of course, everyone knows somebody who has cold sore, and a lot of people carry that virus in them. And I just say, well, that's essentially the same virus that you've picked up somewhere along the line. It affects a different portion of the anatomy, and it is generally transmitted through sexual contact. And that's, of course, where a lot of the stigma, the
But it can also be picked up without sexual contact.
It is possible to be picked up without sexual contact. It's unlikely. Generally speaking, that's the mode of transmission. However, herpes virus will survive off the body in a moist, warm environment at this point, it's kind of debatable about for how long, but it is possible to pick it up without having sexual
Do any of
relations.
you young people know of anybody who had herpes or has herpes?
I do not know of
You
anyone.
don't know anybody?
I don't.
Does anybody? No? Because I'm wondering how they react. How do they come into you, Alan, when you're sitting there in the office and helping?
I get the same reaction that Bill does, and the first thing we have to do is defuse them and explain to them that it's not life-threatening, which other venereal diseases are, which gonorrhea is and syphilis is, if it's allowed to continue. With women, probably the biggest concern is childbearing, and we tell them that mostly you can have children the normal way, and in the worst, you'll have a child delivered normally, but through a cesarean section, and will not affect the newborn in any way if you're careful. We try to explain to people that having herpes is no big deal, and it really isn't a big deal, and that you can have a normal sex life, and you can have many relations and many partners, and it's the fact that the misconception, the fact that it is a sexually transmitted disease that has made such a great thing for the media to make hay on. Because
Yeah, but you were giving me a statistic in the break there about what? How many people?
they expect that 85% of the population, of the adult population, to have herpes simplex within 9 years. 9 years is around the corner. Now, 9 years, it'll be by far the majority of the population. I think that the herpes jokes, I think that the media hype will have quieted down by then because the people in the media will now have herpes. We have, I've been contacted by many elected officials with herpes, members of major corporations with herpes. They don't want to come out from the closet, but they do want to let me know that they are there to support us if we need support in our organization.
The 60s brought about the so-called sexual revolution. Panel, I'm wondering, do you think that because of herpes, people will become less promiscuous? They really won't engage in sex too much. Do you think so, Gina?
I don't think so. I think, the sexual revolution was promoted so much and still is. I don't think so. I think that something that would help is that you really, if you have herpes, really understand what you have, and that'll help you.
Fear is always
yeah.
predicated on ignorance, and so one of the ways that we can help, when you're informed, you dispel ignorance, which is always a good idea. Will, do you think it's going to create a problem with intimacy?
Well, no, I don't. But I think that later on, as the revolution goes on, I think that people would try to be more careful about who they mess around with and all that. I don't think you would come on as fast as people would from the past.
If you had herpes, would you tell your partner?
I don't know. It depends. It depends on which partner. I don't think I would have a partner that I would. I mean, the first person I would run to would probably be my mother, and then from there, it'd be between the two of us.
And she'll say, "Don't touch me. Don't come near me."
I don't think she'll do that.
No, I'm only teasing. Do you like the scare tactics that are being used today, Sandy?
No, I don't. Do you mean like how people are, the media and stuff are saying this is awful? No, I don't think it's right, because for the people that have it, they're scared enough knowing they have a disease that's never can be cured and stuff. And for the media and people to laugh, that's what I really don't think is fair. Is like in your class, in fact, someone admitted or something. He said he had cold sores, and everyone started laughing. And people laugh, and like if I was to say I had it, which I don't, but people would I'd come back to school and people would look at me really strange and stuff, and I don't think that's right, because everyone is susceptible to it, and
I think it's just like any other disease. I mean, people have other diseases that you just can't get rid of. I mean, you don't back away from them. I think it should be treated the same.
What she's saying is that, well, you got to go back to the media hype, because it's getting hyped up so much that the people are ignorant towards it. So you can't really blame the kids for laughing at somebody else. I think they don't really realize how much they're hurting the person that they're laughing at. They really think that, well, this person, there's something wrong with it, because there's so much that the media has built up. There's something that isn't really big. After what I've been hearing that what these people have been saying about it, it's really nothing really that big.
How do we help people relax? How do we take away that stress, Ava? What do we do to make people feel comfortable again? It hurts and it bothers. What do you do?
Well, I'm sure it's very individual. People cope with problems in their individual styles, but I think understanding facts about herpes and what it is and what it isn't, and learning what it is for them. I think as time goes on and their outbreaks become less and less severe and further apart and shorter, as Bill was saying before, that they'll understand what it is doing to their life and how it isn't ruining their life, and that it may possibly improve things in their life because of improved communications. Maybe they do go to their parents with it or to their sexual partners with it, and maybe they'll be really pleased with the result of that. Expanded communication.
Well, there's certainly enough information that's coming out in books about genital herpes. There's books on this now. The Herpes Resource Center, the help chapter of Herpes Resource Center are all available. You've just been appointed the Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare, and you've been given unlimited supply of funds for TV and advertising and radio advertising. How do you use your money, and what do you help people understand about herpes? Secretary Bill, what do you say?
First of all, if I had an unlimited budget, I don't know how much of it I would be able to spend. I think what you need is to have one-on-one situations, counseling, support groups, things that are available now that don't cost a lot of money. They are, I think, much more effective in communicating what herpes is all about to people than a billboard or a magazine cover, because basically using those vehicles, you're combating, you're kind of running head-to-head with the kind of media exposure the herpes is getting now, which is, for the most part, a very distorted view of that particular healthcare issue.
Okay, Secretary Allen, you've got this unlimited amount of funds.
Okay, what we do is we try to cut across the point that you can actually make herpes work for you, that having herpes can even be an advantage. And I know this sounds very shocking for me to say this, But I can tell you right now that people who have herpes, who have learned to cope with it, have learned to take charge of their lives, feel very good about it, and are able to tell new partners that they have herpes. They don't pass it on, and it's given them a certain strength, inner strength, emotional strength. They take care of themselves, and they make it work.
I think the thing you're talking about is the thing of denial, which is used as one of the rationalization ways for any kind of difficult problem with death or sex or disease or anything. And what you're saying is that these people don't cover and hide behind denial techniques. They get out there in the open and talk about it. Exactly. Secretary Ava, you've just been appointed. What do you do?
Well, I would say that the huge media effort that has been made has to be countered through the same vehicle or vehicles, so that health education messages, on TV, on the radio, magazine articles, whatever, give somewhat equal time in a non-panic, of a non-panic nature.
For more information, you can write to the LA Help Chapter of the Herpes Resource Center. That's area code 213-394-0844. Or you can visit the Live and Learn Center at 213-995-7121, where an ongoing herpes group is in session each week. Panel, you've shed some light on this whole herpes situation in a very sensitive, gentle, and understanding way, and I'm very appreciative. This is Joe Feinstein for Teen Talk saying we will see you very soon.